What's shaking, everybody? My name is Ross Mandel. I'm coming to you live today from Delray Beach, Florida, at Scott Woolley Studios. And I have a spectacular guest for us today. So excited. About 14 years ago, I was invited by Eric Bowling, a guy I knew from the stock markets and the commodity exchange. We call it Wall Street Arena. And he invited me to come and talk about a reality show that I had agreed to do. And his show was called Money Rocks. That was in 2010. What? 14 years ago, 15 years ago, actually. And on the panel that day was a stunning young blonde who just was very nice to me, who sort of got me. We met the backstage in what they call the green room. We had a little chit chat. And boy, oh boy, so much has happened since then. I want you all to welcome my friend, and she's become an icon in the world of female empowerment and branding. I want you to meet Jen Groover. Jen, what's happening, baby?
I can't believe it was that many years ago. Man, time just goes way too fast.
Is that crazy?
That is. It felt like yesterday.
Yeah, it felt like yesterday, except when I get out of bed in the morning. I mean, I was a beast. Now I'm healing. My daughter, who graduated with a psychology major from the University of Florida, says, "Dad, you got PTSD. It's okay."
I get it. I know.
You know what I mean?
The cells hold on to trauma. That is for sure.
Ooh, listen to you. I got another fantastic woman. Boy, I'm so excited because I went back and I played back that clip of when I was on Money Rocks. You were just lovely.
Thank you.
The whole panel, everybody on that panel went on to have like sort of an illustrious and prestigious career.
Yeah.
On television,
it was a good panel. Great
social media.
Great women. Yeah.
And now I go on your Instagram and I see you got children and a family, and I'm looking at all the things you've done while the feds had me locked away for 112 months, if you could believe that, right? And I didn't go into prison till 2014.
Yeah, I witnessed it because I was watching Stephanie and just watching the journey kind of unfold.
It's been a crazy journey, babe. It's just,
Yeah.
but I'm back, I'm free, and now I'm telling my story and I'm sharing with everybody how it is. A lot of guys on social media, on the internet, etc., they hypothecate and they're telling you what they think and their interpretation. I'll tell you what is. I've been to hell courtesy of the United States government. I was attacked by regulators. They tried to buy me out. They tried to put me out of business. And then in the end of the day, they just stole my business. They had a couple of prosecutors in Lower Manhattan. What a shock. President Trump, can you relate to that story?
Well,
all of a sudden, they never had a problem in my life with the law. All of a sudden, I'm a criminal and I violated this, that, and the other thing. Even though they were auditing my firm literally 11 months a year, sending regulators in trying to badger me down so they could take my business. I had 10,000 multimillionaires as customers around the world. But Jen, let's talk about you today.
Well, what should we dive into first, Ross?
I got courtesy of Stephanie, I have to say, she's been following you ever since that day on Money Rocks, and of all the people involved on that show, including Eric, you're the one she's taken the most love to.
I appreciate that. I've been following her and your daughter's journey, and it's been amazing to watch. Your daughter's the same age range as my girls, so we've kind of seen the evolution of that middle school, high school, now college, and it's been amazing to watch.
My oldest just got her own apartment.
Which one just graduated? One of them.
Well, Sydney just graduated. The blonde. Okay. She looks like Stephanie.
Yep, she does exactly like her.
And Skylar she sort of got that domination gene. She's started in the technology recruiting business with 150 people that have been there 20 years in the business. She's number 3 in the firm right now.
Good for her.
Yeah, she made Legends tour. Her firm she'll bring in $1 million this year just to her firm.
It's amazing.
She's just
I'm
started.
so happy for her. She has tenacity,
A
grit,
killer, a
tenacity.
killer, a killer. Really, just a closer. You never see her coming. But I just want to say this about you. You've been called a one-woman brand. And then you've also been called a serial entrepreneur. Where does your passion come from? Jen, where are you from? Let's take it back. I want to dial the clock back. Who was
All
Jen
right.
Groover? Where you from? Where'd you grow
So
up?
I'll dial back a little bit more because I think this will be really insightful for you, Ross. But my mom is originally from Brooklyn.
I love it. Mine too.
Tenacious, sassy, mouthy Brooklyn, New Yorker, but classy and strong. Um, so my grandfather was a pharmacist in
Wow.
Bensonhurst, and the local corner pharmacy. They're
I
like the
so
local
get it.
celebrity back then, right?
I so get it. I so get it.
His pestle and mortar was legend in the home, and one of his best friends who became a mentor role model, like an uncle to my mom, was Vince Lombardi.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, so knowing all that I know about psychology and subconscious programming and generational programming, I know for sure he was very much part of my mom's programming, which then became part of my programming. And she wound up becoming one of the first models for 17 magazine, living in
Wow.
Manhattan, a very cool young life for a very limited amount of women back then. Went to live in St. Petersburg, Florida for a while. Um, and then she went to Philadelphia to do a photo shoot. And she had really kinky, curly hair, and hair straightening just started back then. And they straightened her hair and it all fell out because
Oh my
the
God.
formulations were so harsh back then.
Chemicals and heat, right?
Exactly. So my dad was in the DA's office at the time, young attorney, and wound up representing her. They fell in love and wound up getting married. Probably never should have gotten married, but I'm alive because of it. But two very strong alpha personalities, constantly battling. But my dad was grew up dirt poor in Chester and put himself
Wow.
through law school and went to the Marines to pay for law school and was tough, hardcore drill instructor. So you can imagine how strict my respectful upbringing
Wow.
was.
Wow.
And work ethic was really critical to him, and respect. And if we ever acted lazy, he would get irate. That would be his one of his triggers. So between that kind of programming and my mom, and then my mom had a TV show when I was a kid for Cablevision, which later got bought by Comcast.
I remember Cablevision.
And it was called For You and About You. And it was supposed to be more current affairs and politics because she ran campaigns for politicians back then, wanting to be a woman making impact and being a voice instead of just a vote. But I quickly, as well as she, learned how crazy and corrupt things can be. And so I witnessed a lot in my door to door campaigning and being a kid putting stamps on envelopes and campaign headquarters,
I love it.
get, getting paid pennies per stamp. You know, the old like roller thing to close the envelope. But she had this TV show, and because of her curiosity from Vince of what makes somebody great, anytime she could fill in some of the airtime with professional athletes and other legends, she would do so. And the conversation always went to that psychology of greatness and behaviors and habits. And so, between all of those layers and also the dysfunctionality within my parents' marriage, I went to college and stumbled into my first psychology class And it was the first time I loved learning, and found it fascinating to understand why people do what they do, behaviors, patterns, triggers, all of it. I
I
started to
love it.
make a lot more sense of my childhood and all the layers of things that I learned in it. And really, that foundation of my passion for psychology became fundamental in everything I did career wise. Uh, you could have a million great ideas, but without the right psyche and your ability to understand your own limited beliefs and change those limited beliefs,
I love it.
combined with work ethic, um, it's really hard to take those great ideas and turn them into something that are amazing or make an impact. So luckily, I've been able to self-assess all of those different elements and utilize them to my advantage as I got older and more wise and making decisions and finding the right mentors along the way. But it was very interesting, layered. I keep using the word layered because there were so many layers, layered childhood. But that led me to combining insightfulness with resiliency to do all the things that I've done on this journey.
You know what? What an answer. I mean, you just checked every. I could sign off right now, and I feel like we did a good deal here. That's amazing. I just want you to know your self awareness is just so impressive to me.
Thank
And
you.
you're back. I am shocked. Firstly, Bensonhurst, and I mean, half of Bensonhurst worked for me at one time. I'm
So
not
great.
kidding you. You know what I mean? I had offices on Wall Street. I had hundreds and hundreds of guys coming over from Bensonhurst and from Brooklyn and Staten Island, etc. But
Yeah.
one of the things you probably don't know about me, everybody seems to know about my Wall Street career and all that kind of thing, and I did put my stamp on that and made a somehow became like a legend, icon, whatever. Did my thing, but a lot of people don't know is that I started when I was 22 years old in January of '79. I was actually 21 in the ladies' handbag business,
Oh, that's
and
so. I
I
did
had it.
not know that.
Most people don't. It was a family business that we had a showroom in the handbag mart. My dad had passed away, you know, when I was 16, when he was 48 years old in 1973.
Oh,
But my uncle said, "Let me give this kid a job." I was like a troubled kid, you know, just wanted to party and act out, and they figured I'd last about a week or a month, and so I was in the handbag business, 325th Avenue. The handbag, I
well,
had a showroom there, and I was there for a few years and became a partner and made all kinds of money and did all kinds of things before I found Wall Street. But, you know, let's talk about the Butler Bag. I understand that was, you know, a big deal. I mean, how did you come up with that idea? You know, what challenges did you face? I mean, I know a little bit about this industry. Talk
yeah.
to me. Talk to me about the Butler Bag.
What an industry. So prior to the Butler Bag creation, I had been a fitness competitor. I owned a gym in Wilmington. Back then, as a fitness competitor, we were influencers for different brands, really pushing the movement. There was not that term influencer back then.
I mean, you were an influencer long before we had coined that word,
Yeah, before social media
before
existed.
social media.
Yeah, but it
I
was
was
really
podcasting before there was such a thing called podcasting.
right. And so
Yep.
to we watched that whole evolution, and it's interesting where it's gone. And it was a lot harder back then because you had there were a lot more gatekeepers, and if you didn't get past the gatekeepers, it was a bit more challenging to get to where you want to go. Luckily, a lot of these modalities of social media and technology have put power back into our hands a little bit
Wow.
more. But
So well put. What a clip that's going to be. I
thank you.
love that. I love it. You're full of, it's just unbelievable. Keep going. Talk to
Thank
me.
you. So, I watched a movement be created because when I say this to a lot of younger people, that in the 90s, especially the early to mid 90s, the fitness movement was brand new. It was a baby. And we were literally convincing people not to smoke in the office space. And if you eat healthier, you'll be more productive. And if you exercise during the day, you'll get more energy. And back then, we were really convincing of these new insights. And I also began working with QVC, and I was on air talent as a pitch person, as a spokesperson for different brands, and both of those experiences were very psychologically driven to really understand emotionally connecting with an audience and storytelling. And so I learned a lot of how to create your story, tell your story, and connect with your audience. And also at that time period, I had a lot of great mentors. Bob Proctor was one of my favorite mentors.
Big name.
Such an incredible soul. Really transformed a lot of my ability to see the world through a different lens than most people did. I was part of this 3% club, just a 20-something-year-old. I was the youngest person in this 3% club that Bob created to teach people to think like the top 3% of the world. And he would always help us to constantly have introspection to our beliefs, our limited beliefs, and figure out where they came from and how to change them. And so combine that with being in these green rooms in QVC and touring all over at these big conferences for the fitness world. And I would always ask these questions of how people created these products and created these services, especially that green room in QVC, which is a wealth of knowledge. So as I would watch these widgets and products turn into multi-million-dollar companies, I knew I had within me the capability to create. I always had ideas. I had an idea journal. And wasn't sure what that was going to be. But in 2004, my twins were born. And I, like most new parents, specifically moms in this case, start to feel really overwhelmed with this new life. And you get convinced you have to buy all this stuff, then you need all these things, and you don't even know what half the things are for.
I get it, boy. Our whole home was, as soon as she got pregnant, I never saw more junk in the house every week. We have to have this. No, you have to have that. We have to have this. I mean, they really do a great job selling you. Let me just tell you.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know, so you wind up buying it all.
Everything. We had everything.
I think I need it. But
I have a storage facility full of this shit.
Yeah.
Still.
Well, God bless, because I would love to see some of those things, brought back to life, because I would dispose of things. As we got through it, I was like, okay, I'm done with this. I need more space. My simplistic life. But I was in the grocery store one night when my twins were little, and those car seats back then were really heavy.
Oh, yeah, and terrible. Trying to figure out how to make these carriages and strollers. I'll never forget. You need a PhD in those days.
Yeah, I think they're a little bit lighter and easier these days.
I'm sure.
Back then it was quite a bit cumbersome, and I was in the grocery store standing in an express lane and put my kids down in their car seats to get my credit card out of my bag filled with all this stuff that I didn't even need.
Couldn't find anything, probably.
Just in case. But yes, I couldn't find my credit card or anything. And I wound up panicking because I was holding up a line of people and dumped my bag in front of the cashier. And in this panic and ruffled feelings, I walked out of the grocery store thinking, seriously, as far as we've come in society with innovation, women are literally accepting a bucket for a bag. It's literally a bucket. Yes. I could get lining, water, a mop, and use it as a bucket. So you'll love this, Ross. My mom had a mantra that you are not allowed to complain about anything. unless you back it up with a solution.
I love it. You're right. I'm in the solution business.
Yeah.
That's why I live my life.
Exactly. So anytime we had a complaint, we weren't allowed to say our complaint.
What a woman your mother was. What a woman.
She was tough. Full of life lessons. But she wouldn't let us complain unless we had a solution, which is so good if you understand psychology, because it's literally programming your mind, right?
Correct.
To go from problem to solution. So it hardwires your neural pathways to be solution driven.
I love it.
And so that day I was leaving the grocery store and thinking, how am I going to do this? I can't draw a stick figure even very well. I'm not an engineer. And a few months later, I had been doing a lot of transformational process at that time where I was identifying a lot of my limited beliefs. One was my fear of failure. Because my dad was in the Marines, he would always say failure is not an option, which totally understand in a battlefield.
Yeah, sure. On a battlefield, it's a pretty absolute concept. I get it. Yeah.
Right. But if you actually teach a child with good self-preservation skills,
right,
that failure is not an option, the child does only what they're going to
might never try anything. I get it.
Right, which is what I was doing. Even though I was doing cool things, I wasn't living to my potential. And Bob was my mentor at that time and really working through where these different beliefs came through. And that one, I wound up really changing, and I believe a lot of my brain changed after changing that belief, that I created a new mantra that I have more fear of regret than I have of failure. And failure is just part of the process on the journey to success.
I'm going to jump in and say, so one of the things that I teach, my people is failure is not an excuse.
Yep.
It's not an excuse. Everybody fails. And I talk about the greatest Hall of Fame baseball players, the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, all of them. They hit 330. That's Ted Williams once, made 400 in a year. That means 6 out of 10 times they failed.
Yeah.
They struck out. They made out.
Yep.
You understand? Failure is part of the game, baby.
Yeah.
It's not an excuse.
Right.
And then I segue into saying that my favorite word in the English language is next.
Right.
The ability to move from failure to failure without a loss of enthusiasm. That's what success is. Go ahead. I love it.
Growth and wisdom. Like anytime I come up against a wall like that, that self-awareness, Ross, is really to say, what am I doing wrong here? How can I do it different? Exactly. What am I learning? What's the growth in this process? And then
I love it.
Nothing actually happens in vain if you're learning through the process and growing through the process. And so back to that, you're not allowed to complain about something and what am I going to do about it? I was really working on my belief systems at that time period, mostly realizing the responsibility of being a new mom, that how do I teach my kids that they can do and be anything if I myself wasn't living to my potential? Because they see you more than they hear you.
You are their whole world.
Right.
You're their power of example. You have to be, it's so hard just to be a mom.
Yeah.
And then to be like a great mom. I mean, I take my hat off to women. People don't understand.
Well, yeah, right. And it's the responsibility. It's the awareness of that you're shaping the future generation. I mean, that's a big responsibility when you break it down like that. And one of the things my dad would say, which I really hated as a kid, but can really appreciate now, is my job as your parent is not to indulge you and certainly not to overindulge you, but it is to create you or make you a capable human being that can contribute to society someday.
Right.
And as a kid,
that doesn't flow.
As a kid, I was like, what? but now I get it. Now I get it.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, you mean you're not going to pay for my clothes this weekend? Is that what you're saying to me?
Dad, you mean I can't go to Cancun for spring break?
Right, exactly. Does that mean I
Dad, I
can't
need a
get
Camaro. Dad, I
the
need a
group?
Camaro.
I did have a Camaro. That's so
Me
funny. You
too.
said
Me too.
so funny. My little J dog tag. Oh yeah, those little Guido days.
Yep. I love my Camaro. My white Camaro. It was like life changing to me.
Oh, I loved it too. Cranking up that music
The
back then.
music.
Maria,
Yep.
Maria was the big song back then. Um, but
How great.
going back to the original
Yes, the
question
Butler
of
bag. I want to hear
the
how you
rubber bag.
friggin'
Uh, so one day I'm unloading my dishwasher. I have the bird's eye view of the utensils. I had been unloading my dishwasher since I think I was like 5, Ross. That was like my chore.
I understand.
And, um, but this day, and this is really important for anyone who's really listening about that original question, I would say that my mom would ask is what makes you good to great? And it's the transformation of your beliefs. Therefore, it changes your brain, which changes your perception. So your lens, your eyes see differently. And so that day when I was unloading my dishwasher, I looked over my utensils and I thought, well, this is how I want everything in my bag to be. Standing up straight, bird's eye view. Even if I drop it in, it winds up in a compartment. I took my dishwasher tray out of my dishwasher, stuck it into my handbag, and that became my first prototype.
Wow. What a great story. So obvious, too. I hate to say it like that, but
Right?
I got the visual. I'm a
Right?
big dishwasher guy, too. And I
Yeah.
got the visual. Everything has its place.
Everything has a place, and it's dummy
Right.
proof.
I
And
love it. Right.
yeah,
I love it. So
so
that's where the Butler bag comes from.
it's where it originated. It became a journey, a scavenger hunt to figure out how to get it to market
Oh man, how to
without
produce it? How to produce it? Where'd you produce the bag? Hong Kong,
uh,
Vietnam?
Asia, which had its
Yeah,
own share, like fair share, of
yeah.
limitations.
Taiwan,
Yeah,
Taipei, Korea,
yeah. Well,
Vietnam.
and the communication and the time frame, and we didn't have WhatsApp back then, and you didn't. I mean, it
Nothing.
was a lot more difficult. I
What
don't
year was this? What year was this that you created the Butler
2000,
bag?
2000, the end of 2004 is when I began the process of figuring it out and getting it to market. It came to market in 2006.
Who gave you your first order? Do you remember? Of course you remember, but
So I wound up ordering 5,000 units in hopes that
okay.
I would figure out where they were going to go. What happened, Ross, is I learned from another mentor of mine, Steve Harrison, really how to work with the media, and wound up investing in a good publicist back then, which were critical, way
Yes.
more critical than they are today. And I wound up getting on Z100. For
Wow.
the Rage page was a thing. It was a blog back then, and we were featured in the Rage page. And I just gotten my e-commerce set up. I don't even think my shopping cart was fully actually even working yet. And we wound up getting over 500 orders that day.
That
And
day?
that day,
How excited were you? My God, you must have been going crazy.
so excited, but so scared because I was like, now how do I ship these things?
Right,
What
right,
like
right,
and none
right.
of it was amazing, but it was scary. It's a scavenger hunt on your way, and that led to this woman reaching out to me to be part of the Miami Vice movie premiere. And
Wow.
back then the swag bags were really big, and you can go and gift the celebrities. And then once they started taxing the celebrities, it changed everything. But
Right.
um, I wound up, Paris Hilton was the it girl then. And it wound up in a picture of Paris Hilton in Us Weekly. Um,
Wow.
that
Huge.
that was huge.
Huge. What?
Huge.
What?
Yeah, so that was a tipping point. A lot of the boutiques I had been going into pitching it that would say, well, we'll
Right.
see how it goes. I walked back into every one of those boutiques and I handed them a copy of the front cover of Us Weekly with my bag on it. And that's when I started getting
When
into,
can I get delivery?
yep, exactly.
Exactly. Oh my God, what a great you made. It's fair to say you made a few dollars on this thing.
Yeah, and then I wound up knocking myself off at every price point after that. I did a licensing deal 18 months into it with a company was called Accessories Network in the Empire State Building, and wound up doing different tiers of the bag, just like Sarah
Of
Blakely was
course, of
doing with
course.
Spanx. Um, and then wound up doing a big deal with Avon, a licensing deal with Avon that
Wow.
eventually acquired it.
Wow. So you patented the idea. Did you have the intellectual property? Was
Yep,
that you were able
yep,
to get that done too? Wow.
absolutely.
I was just gonna say, I just hit me because you mentioned QVC earlier. If you were on QVC, you would have sold 5 million of those.
Yeah, we did do QVC as well. I
Wow.
strategically waited till I had the licensing deal in place.
I bet.
So then the leverage was with Accessories Network. Um, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs that also lost their shirts back then. If QVC, if they had to hold the product too long or didn't
Correct.
get the right air times,
Inventory kills.
it sometimes people could have stuff in a warehouse for 3 to 6 months.
It doesn't matter if you own stock, if you own homes and property. Inventory can kill you.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
that's why I'm in a business today that carries no inventory. I love the digital world. You understand? I'm just
I love
killing
the
it.
digital world
It's
too.
an amazing, amazing thing. Now, what's the first? I'm sure at one point you got a big check. At some point, the money came in. You got a big check. One of the things that I always wonder is, what'd you do when you got your first big check? What was the first really sort of item that you bought? Did you buy a home, a condo, a car?
No, I think it was just my car, but it wasn't anything crazy. It was a Range Rover, but it wasn't anything crazy.
Right, right, right. I get it. That's still
I
100 grand plus.
yeah, I I think because of my dad, um,
Discipline.
growing up so poor, and then he wound up becoming an attorney and was a divorce administrator for the county. But he always was very wise, and also, as an attorney with his own practice, just like with a lot of businesses, sometimes you have great months and years, and sometimes you don't, and so you live in the middle. And
Not
I
everybody has that discipline.
right, and I learned to live in the middle, and so while things were great at that moment, I knew that there was
Right.
potentially not a negative scarcity way. There's a big difference between seeing it as scarcity way, but more of a way of like there might be a moment where I need to invest in to something else for more growth. And so I never went crazy. I
Good.
never lived with that. Uh, I need this extra thing to
Right.
prove to
Nothing
people
wrong
who
with
I,
holding money. There's nothing wrong with holding money.
yeah,
There's nothing. Just you have to know how to hold it. Without it has to work for you in some degree.
right, right,
So
investment.
you have to learn to be smart with it. Now, so the Butler bag really, that was a revolutionary product. It really was. I take my
Thank
hat
you.
off to you.
I
I was in the
appreciate
business for so many years, and I used to wonder. We used to make these tote bags, and they would sell like crazy. And then the different bags, and I'd say, I don't understand. Like the women I dated that I knew had so much different stuff, from the lipstick to the
that.
perfume to the eyeliner to the root, all the different things women have, right? To be a
Right?
woman, an attractive woman, whatever, a woman that looks after herself, and they would just drop stuff in the bag. I was in the
Yeah,
business, and I used to
right.
wonder, why doesn't anybody like put pocket? I love. Okay, I keep my phone in one pocket, and I keep my money clip in one pocket. Like I mean, it's a kind of thing you get. I'm a sorted out type of guy.
Yeah,
I like to know where shit goes, and I
yeah,
was in that business, and I couldn't understand. And the only people that had sort of bags that had like compartments were really the cheap vinyl, the
yeah. I
polyurethane,
know.
the PVC.
I fought against that because there was a perception that if anything's too organized, it's not
Right. It's not cool.
fashion.
It's not
It's
cool. Right.
function, not fashion. That's exactly, by the way, what this man, Abe, who I wound up doing my licensing deal with, said to me when I first pitched him is, women want fashion, not function.
Well,
And I
that's
said,
true.
well, I'm a woman and I want both. Like, why can't I have both?
I love it.
Like, why does it have to
That's
be one or the other? But, you know, there was, I said, he goes, well, it's been tried before. And I said, well, what if it's been tried before at the wrong time? What if the messaging wasn't right? What if it wasn't a woman telling her story, which it wasn't? And
right. Messaging is so important, and that's something now we've all learned with the advent of social media, the connectivity of cellular technology, and all these good things.
yeah, well, guess
Messaging.
what? Ross, that's what really made the brand. I mean, I was bootstrapping that when I got started, and I had learned from another mentor of mine um, about telling the story, and the story is what creates guerrilla marketing if it's the right story.
100%.
And I put on every one of my hang tags and made every one of the stores have signage of the story created by a new mom with twins, took her dishwasher tray out of the dishwasher, and
I love it.
everyone told my story for me. And it became this really viral guerrilla marketing
I love
thing
it.
that had its own life.
I love it. It's so funny we're having this conversation today because I'm building a brand now, and with a bunch of different people, and I emphasize the importance of story. I emphasize that that's what people crave. We
Yep.
are a social species. We form communities. We were never told that's what we had to do. When I was walked out of my cave one day and started building my own little place, I did it, close by where there was a neighbor who also was building his little place, maybe down by a river. You know what I mean? We
Yeah.
we formed towns, communities, neighborhoods, and I'll never forget. I was sitting on Wall Street, and they were pitching us this different technology because I have the advantage, let's say, of being in a spot where every single entrepreneur came for funding. So I got to participate in all every technology you could think of. I probably raised money. I I I worked at pretty much every household name billionaire at one point, and they paid me nicely. But you take an idea now, you look for the funding, et cetera. You go to Wall Street. I'll never forget they were talking about one day you'll be able to sit in your home and you'd be able to turn on your TV and you could watch the ball game, a drama. You could watch a soap opera. You could watch any sporting event in the world, which we have now with ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
We could watch any movie ever done with Prime Video and Hulu and Netflix, etc. You can watch the opera, the ballet, like goes. Movie theaters out of business.
Yeah.
And
Malls
I
too.
remember being in my mansion in Boca Raton or in my, they called it a penthouse in Trump Tower, and saying to Stephanie, "What do you want to do?" She goes, "Let's go out to dinner and the movies." Now we had everything in the house,
Yeah.
but we wanted to go out and dine with other people and
Right.
sit in the theater with people. And
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing that people forget, and that's why stories are so important. You have these guys fighting, and the fighting no one gives a shit about,
Yeah.
except a
Yeah.
small percentage. But when you feel some sort of connection to the people on the screen in the cage, now fighting matters because you know you care. We care about people.
Yeah.
I
It's
I
passion.
I applaud you.
Thank
I
you.
love it. I didn't know you before today, really, and you've just opened up a window into who Jen Groover really is.
Thank
But
you.
also, you were so great telling us where you're from. The Vince Lombardi thing and the modeling and the mom, and you have been one driven, gorgeous woman. I
Thank you.
mean, and smart. I love that. I love that. I love that. Now you built many brands, correct?
Yeah, I still do. That's what I do all day, every day. I luckily have some of the best clients with some amazing brands. A lot of them in the food industry, the beauty industry, technology.
I love it. And you're a mom.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, Ross. My girls are in college now. One goes to Arizona State. The other one goes to Charleston.
Wow.
Though, yeah, they picked resort towns, which I'm totally down with.
Right.
The
Different parts of the country, 3,000 miles apart, like.
I know. And
Wow.
yeah, I wasn't sure how that was going to work out, but I think it was the best thing for them to really kind of build their own individual identity.
I love it.
The one in Charleston's in Barcelona right now and studying abroad.
Of course she is.
Yeah, exactly.
One of my partners has a daughter who goes to the Ross School in Michigan.
Okay.
And she's currently in Barcelona studying for the semester.
A lot of kids there right now.
Isn't that crazy?
The semester to be there.
Wow.
She's having the time of her life. But once my kids went to college, that year, as that senior year in high school, or even that junior year, we start doing the college visits. I started to get really sad. Like, this is the last thing of this, and this is the last time of this, and I felt a sense of grief. And I think what I finally realized that the grief, obviously, there's so many kids, and I could go visit them, and I luckily kept my own identity throughout the entire time of being a mom, so I didn't lose myself. What I got upset about was that chapter was no longer going to exist. That no matter how many times they came home, life wouldn't be the same because they would go and be in college for 4 years and then go on to their own lives afterwards.
Mom, what's for dinner? That's no more.
Right.
Now it's going to be where we meeting for dinner, Mom.
Right. Well, now it is. And I love it. I love this stage of life. That's
so great. You embrace it. You're making it happen though. You have to make it happen. It just doesn't happen on its own.
No. And I love this stage of life where your kids choose to want to hang out with you.
Now you're talking.
Because they have other choices and responsibilities, and friends, of course, are very important at that stage of life. And the fact that my kids and their roommates and all their friends get so excited when I'm coming to visit is one of my top senses of pride at this stage of life.
I get it. It's there's nothing better than being a parent.
Yeah, I love it.
I love
it.
But
when they went to college, I realized something that I thought was really helpful. I was flying home from Arizona on that 4.5-hour flight, crying, and had this conversation like, you gotta stop. Like, this is what you do for a living. You teach people how to psychologically go through the process to find the positive in the experience. And it hit me. Wait a second. The positive in this experience is, for the first time in 18 years, I can work without guilt.
You're free in an odd way.
I can work. I can say yes to a lot of things I couldn't say yes to. I can do the trips that I probably declined before. I could say yes to all the networking events at night that I would have said no to. And it became really exhilarating and exciting because it's like, I have all this wisdom. I have the freedom that I had back before I had them at 31. And now I have but I have the knowledge and wisdom that I didn't have at that stage of life. And it's been exhilarating. And I am so blessed to work with so many incredible brands and still be speaking and getting all these crazy fun experiences.
It's so great. It's like they just took the ankle monitor off you.
Pretty much.
You were in home when you have the kids, you're at home confinement, and now you can travel and you can do deals and you can go out. Listen, I get it. I missed a lot of years, of course, but my mind goes back to the days when the girls were little. Daddy, and I used to take them to the supermarket and out on errands, and we drive around and we visit people and do things. And I just loved, I have 2 daughters as well,
Yeah.
And that whole thing is just it's so precious. And now they're like 2 grown-ups, and we go out for sushi, and, I connect with them in different ways.
Right.
It's really it's really it's a life experience, and that we were very fortunate to have. I know a few people that never had children,
Yeah.
and that not going to have children.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one experience that I am extremely grateful to God.
Yeah.
You know
Likewise.
that I got a chance to experience this during my time here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
it's. I have friends that they, and people that don't have children and don't go through this process, they never understand,
Yeah.
because even the tough moments, the negatives, are precious.
Yes. When you look back and you realize, time, they say time heals wounds, but time also heals perspective
Correct.
and allows you sometimes to, when you're in the thick of a moment, personally or professionally, even, and it seems hard or difficult or unbearable, um, to be able to have that time to create a perspective, to have better memories of what that experience was in that moment. Um, I think actually helps us have a greater sense of joy in life.
I love it, and being a parent has been one of the great accomplishments of my life. Now let's talk about you for a minute. You wrote a book, The More
Couple.
Method.
Yes.
Now more is my drug of choice. So
Yes.
I was turned on when I saw that title.
Thank you.
I want you to talk maximizing human potential.
Yes.
Give us an overview.
Yeah. So the More Method was my second book, and it came from speaking at so many events with a diverse audience of how do I teach emotional intelligence, and how do I teach the complexity of what I really am teaching when I'm speaking in a broad scope is psychology, neuroscience, quantum physics, nutrition, and physiology, all rolled up in one, because I'm talking about optimization of your human potential.
I love it.
And you can't optimize who you are if you ignore any of those areas. Like, if you're not, if we, in the simplicity of diet and exercise, you can work out every day, but if you're not eating properly, you're wasting your time pretty much. So
You can never outtrain a bad diet, they say.
never.
Never.
And going into bad diet, you can't become emotionally well with a bad diet either. And
Interesting.
you can't become patient or clear-minded and more productive with a bad diet either, or not knowing how to utilize exercise and getting out for a walk to control your emotions or your mental clarity. And so they're all very interconnected. And my challenge was, how do I teach people of all these different backgrounds how to optimize their potential in the most simplified way possible? And it came to me at like 3 o'clock in the morning, when many of my good ideas do. And and I asked myself, what is your me? What is your value proposition? What makes you unique and different? And it came to me that I teach people how to get more out of life. I teach people how to maximize their potential through getting more out of life.
Can't believe it.
So, sorry. The More Method is, M stands for mindfulness in all that we do. The O is optimization of your physiological state. The R is learning to be more responsive than reactive. And the E is excelling in all facets of life. And I break that down for people and teach them how to utilize simple tools and philosophies to maximize their potential.
I just love it. I mean, I wrote a book in 2013 that is now first available on my website, rossmandel.com, called Rock Solid. And, right on the back cover, how to get more from your life. I feel like you're like a female version of me, which scares me a little. I find this a little scary. I'm glad we're remote right now.
Right.
I mean,
But
really, I'm so impressed with you. I have
thank
to
you.
say, you're. I don't know if it's the right expression. You're so well put together,
Thank
and
you.
I'm not physically, yes, but I'm just saying mentally.
Thank
You
you.
you you are accepting challenges wholeheartedly, embracing them, and tackling them, and accomplishing so many great things in your life. It's
Yeah.
so impressive to me. I
Thank
want you to
you.
know that. It's just so impressive to me.
Mediocre always seemed very boring to me.
That's my
So,
biggest fear.
yeah.
I'd rather zero out than be mediocre.
Yeah,
Mediocre frightens me.
it does. It's and just it always seemed boring and
It is.
um
I'm
I
sure it
would
is.
I feel so I have a saying that complacency is the thief of passion.
Say that one more time because I love it.
Complacency is the thief of passion.
100%.
And growth equals happiness. And most people just seek to get by in life and don't realize that. And if they did, they would get so much more joy and happiness and fulfillment out of their lives. Because most people just try to play it safe, fly under the radar, and
Stay out of the way.
and
Middle
just
of the pack.
just get by.
I get it.
And that's why they're living for happy hour on Friday. And look, I love a glass of wine on Friday for happy hour, but I'm not living for it.
No,
And and I think people are living for it to escape their reality.
I agree with you.
But if they can make their reality an adventure and realize to be challenged in growth is exhilarating and to learn a new skill and to do something that they're afraid of is what really brings the genuine fulfillment that everyone is looking for. People think everyone's looking to be happy, which we all would like to be happy, but fulfillment derives the happiness. It makes the happiness.
People ask me all the time, am I happy? I don't even know what happy means. I'm productive. I have things I want to accomplish. I don't know what happy, what does happy mean? I know when I'm not, I know when I'm unhappy.
Right.
I was driving here today thinking about somebody and I just smashed my hand on the steering wheel and I gave the old F word. I screamed out, fuck. And I don't know where this thought came from. It's just somebody that, is and has been a part of my life upset me. And then it was over, and I thinking about you and thinking about podcasting and thinking about raw media and the things I'm doing, the Aspire tour. I'm invited here, I'm invited there, all these different things, things I'm doing, things I'm not doing, and there, I don't know what happy is. And I agree with you. Complacency, when you get comfortable, that's the death of accomplishment. I
Yeah.
mean, we say in the stock market, guys get their first like big check, and maybe it's like 50 grand or 100 grand, and they're living for a few grand a month, and they got a couple of grand in the belt, so they get a big check, and I'm like, don't get comfortable. Go buy a house. You got 100 grand. Go put down 80, and buy
Yeah.
a house for 400 grand. Put a mortgage on yourself.
Right.
You got to stay driven. You want to
Hungry.
you want to still have goals. I'm an older guy. I'll be 68 a week from today. 68 years old.
A week
Steph,
from today.
1 week from today, March 18th. And Stephanie keeps telling me, you're old, you're at a different point in life, you're going to be 70, all these different things. And the doctors say, listen, Ross, you got to move. Movement is what keeps you healthy. You have to
Yep.
just walk. You don't want to go to the gym. You don't want to go to the treadmill. You got to walk.
Walk.
Everybody says the
Agree.
body works best when it's in motion. But
Always.
I believe everything works better when it's in motion.
I agree.
Your mind, your emotion, everything works better when
Yes.
you're moving. And when
Absolutely.
we're young, we're always moving because we have this energy and this passion, and of course we have the chemistry in our brain and our body. And this is a whole new thing, anti-aging and all that. I'm into all that. I've been into that for 25 years. But
Yeah.
the point is that you keep moving. It seems like you just keep moving.
And it brings me life, right?
Right,
As
right.
Tony Robbins always talks about emotion, energy, and motion, and when we move, like you said, not just physically, but mentally,
Gotta move. Gotta
it's
be
what keeps you
active.
young. I would talk to a lot of people that were in their 70s and 80s and still very vibrant. And they didn't define themselves by their age. So it was just a number to them. And I have to say, in many ways, at 51 years of age, I have more energy than I did even at 25, and more exuberance for and curiosity for life and living. And I think as we get older, if you are self-reflective, you start to realize how much shorter the years become. And I, my nickname as a kid was Cyclone. So I was
Cyclone.
Cyclone. My family
I
named me
get it.
Cyclone.
Now I get it.
She comes in the room, and then all of a sudden, everything's just all over the place.
Like a hurricane. Hurricane Jen.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love
So,
it.
but now the joke is more like, where in the world is Groover? Because I'm always moving around and doing
I
things. But
love it.
it just really does bring a certain energy to life when you're not sitting around in complacency.
Now, one of the things I love about your story, the research and all that shows that you're a leader in like female empowerment. I don't know if that's the right terminology. You founded Leader Girls with a Z, right? To
Yes.
empower young girls. And now I understand because you have daughters and apparently your mom and your uncle, they empowered you to some extent. And
Yeah.
and you continue, but I have daughters and I'm fascinated because there's been a dearth, a lack of I believe empowerment programs for women since I'm a man, since I've been growing up. There was a million things for guys to empower guys and the sports stuff and the fight stuff and all the different things that men have had since we're boys, and girls were like dancing and singing and acting, like drama stuff, and we see now the evolution of the development of women's sports and women's sports leagues. When I was growing up, there was none really,
Right.
and to see that people like yourself are leaders in female empowerment, that really makes me feel good. You
I
know,
appreciate that.
yeah. Tell us about it. Tell us about it.
So, Leader Girls was teaching young girls empowerment through play by fostering their inner entrepreneur.
Wow.
So, it's really trying to, the make it your own kits were big back then in 2009, 10, when I had created Leader Girls. And I said, what if we just change how it's marketed? Instead of make your own purse, on the cover it says become a handbag designer. And inside is a story, a book about a girl who, when she was a kid, used to take her mom's purses and cut them apart and sew them together. And eventually she becomes this world famous handbag designer. Now a child, through play, can see how it starts with one little thing and can become into so much more. And so Leader Girls was really teaching how to think of yourself. You can't become something more than you believe until you believe that you can become
Yep.
that, right?
Yep. I
And
agree.
and so if you read the story of this little girl, a lot of people don't become more because they have limited perception. No one exposed them to this could be
Right.
you.
They have no idea.
They have no idea. And often,
Stephanie's father said that she shouldn't go to college. She should just get married, work in a deli, and find a husband. I
that
mean,
was
really, she had
that
no one that ever talked to her about being more in life.
yeah.
You know what I
And
mean? It's crazy.
that was a generational thought process, really. And
Yeah.
um I realized that when you could give the power to someone to see who they could become, they can step into that before they become it.
I love
And
it.
visualization historically is such a powerful mental training. Michael Phelps talks about how he envisioned himself as this kid with all these gold medals hanging on his neck and
Wow.
in front of all of the cameras and seeing the American flag come down at the Olympics. He envisioned all of that before he became it. And
That's so great.
What happened though, Ross, is I never ever set out to be a women's empowerment expert. I believe by modeling certain behaviors and living a certain way that women naturally began to look up to me because they can identify with me. And one of the things in my generation that I didn't like was as women started getting in the workforce, and Gen Z is a very complex time period of how women started to step into business and their roles. Right. And I didn't like that many women were exerting their power in a B-word way. I still believe
I get it.
I still believe that women should be women in there's a lot of power in feminine energy.
I agree.
And I don't want to, we can have some of that masculine energy, but there's a way to utilize your feminine energy that is even more powerful. And it's not trying to be a man or put down a man, or it's recognizing we both have powers and skills and complementing that. And I always took that stance, and I still take that stance. And I think that's why that perception of this women's empowerment leader became, because many women would say to me, I feel like I could be your best friend. I feel like we could go have coffee together and have the best time. And I think that a lot of women wanted to believe that you could be successful and still be nice.
And still be feminine.
And still be feminine.
You don't have to be manly. It's like when I talk to men that I coach, I say, you have to use, business is competitive. Life can be tough. You're blessed with certain God-given talents and abilities. Some guys are 6'5". They're so handsome, so good looking. But they really have nothing to say. They really don't have much of a personality. I use, there's nothing wrong with using the assets that God gave you. Agreed. Some guys are just very clever, very sly, very smart. You're always looking to improve and develop. But yes. I'm 5'9". I'm never going to be 6'2". So I have to understand where I'm at, who I am, and what I have to develop. God gave me various gifts, and I've honed them as much as I can during the course of this life. You were blessed physically, but you're so with it. And when I met you on that TV set, I thought you were so nice. You were sharp.
I appreciate that.
But one of the women were like coming at me and I'm used to dealing with all these different kind of things, but she was coming at me and that registers in my head, and then you were like this beautiful blonde, and you were coming to my rescue in an odd way, in a really nice and positive way. And I remember having all these different thoughts, and I didn't know you, obviously. We met almost like in passing.
Yeah.
But it made an impression on Stephanie, the things that you said. And look at this now, 14, 15 years later, we're chatting on a podcast, and tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people are going to watch this. Yeah. And that leads me into another section. I just want to go quickly. You have been obviously an attractive woman your whole life, and you developed other sides of you through using your mind and your passion, your energy, and you've had a lot of good mentorship and coaching from your parents to your uncle to some serious people. And I'm a big believer. I've used mentors my whole life, and I sell a mentorship program now. and it's probably the most successful thing that I do,
Right.
and maybe the most successful thing that I've ever done, because what I get from it is so unbelievable. And now I want, I met you on a TV set, and you were so comfortable. You were so relaxed. You know how to handle yourself. And I want you to talk to our audience, because a lot of women either have stage fright in front of a camera or can't imagine being on like CNBC and CNN and Fox TV and all this and just be so sort of natural. Tell us about that.
Well, it wasn't always like that, Ross.
Okay, I love it.
My mom, once again, put me into forensics classes back when I was a kid.
Wow,
And
forensics.
now it would be speech class, but when I say hated and loathed every ounce of this time period, you would have to do these speaking competitions. Wow. And I would get so sick to my stomach, so sick. And I would try to get out of it constantly. And my mom would not allow me to get out of it. And she would say, being able to speak articulately is one of the most important skill sets you will need to be successful in life.
I agree 100%.
I do too. But then at the same time, she had that TV show, and she would put me on TV as a kid commentator. And I didn't ever tell my friends at school that I was on there, because kids can be cruel. And kids wound up realizing I was on this TV show doing this commentating, and I messed up this one day. I said something wrong, and it opened the floodgates of kids making fun. And I did not want to be in the spotlight at all after that. And I kind of dialed back my experiences from there and would try to stay under the radar. And in my 20s, I remembered my mom saying, if you hide from the spotlight, if you don't do the things that you're uncomfortable with, you'll never realize your potential. And that's when I finally said yes to QVC, which talk about facing your fears, live on television in front of like 90 million people back then.
Wow.
With a monitor of having to sell $5,000 an hour. So it's not just, did you go on and did you sound good? It's, did you go on and sell? And facing that fear was really important to be able to have become all the different things I became today. And my daughter in Barcelona is taking a class right now, and every grade is a speech. And she said, Mom, I got to quit. I can't do this class. I said, if you quit, you're paying for your own college. I'm not letting you quit.
Good for you.
She was like, this is so wrong. You don't understand. I have anxiety every day. I said,
understand.
I understand. I said, that means you need to do it more. Your resiliency, your muscle in this area needs some strengthening.
She has to watch this podcast.
Right? I know.
You reveal it. You hated it too. You wanted to quit.
Hated it. But I will say this about confidence. When we continue to face things that scare us, we do develop a muscle of resiliency and adaptability and pride of who we are.
I agree.
And confidence is developed in becoming proud of yourself. And part of that's also discipline. I believe that discipline is a direct correlation to self-love.
I love
and in self-love, not ego self-love, but actually I'm proud of myself. I did that. I didn't want to go to the gym at 5, but I did it anyway.
It's an esteemable thing.
Exactly. And the more you repetitively do those things that you commit to yourself to do and follow through, the more you will see your confidence and self-love, again, not in an arrogant way, develop and grow, that even when you're scared, you'll be able to say, I got this. I'll be okay.
I love it. I love it. I get it. You're 100% correct. The single biggest key is confidence. You just have to be confident in yourself. So you fall and you scrape your knee, big deal. Oops. So you fail. Guess what? Next.
What's the worst that could happen?
Right. Well, what's the worst that could happen? I lived what's the worst that could happen.
Right.
And I did. They locked me away. And guess what? I'm here today. I feel great. I think I look okay. I'm with a fantastic woman right now sharing a screen. I mean, does it get any better than this?
No. And having that gratitude versus resentment.
I'm so grateful. I feel what I've dealt with, I've been in the biggest hole you could dig.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only thing you could do worse than that is really kill me.
Right.
God, I don't know what he has planned, but who knows? Now let's talk about things you're working on currently. Is there anything you can share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. One that I think you'll totally appreciate is, Grimaldi's Pizza.
Of course.
So Grimaldi's has grown to almost 60 restaurants throughout the U.S. now. And the CEO wanted to develop a Grimaldi's Gourmet Foods consumer product line.
Okay.
Starting with pasta sauce. A lot of people don't realize their pizza sauce is actually a pasta sauce, right?
Correct.
So it's the same ingredients our grandparents would have used on our pasta.
I mean, Grimaldi's is like an institution.
It is an institution. It is. We could debate. That's probably the most legendary pizza brand in the United States.
It's certainly one of the top few, no question.
Indeed. So I helped create the pasta sauce line. And it's now to market, and we're in soft launch, ready to be in stores all over the U.S. this year.
You're a killer. You're just like a stone cold killer.
Thank you.
You really are.
It's just fun for me. It's how I control my ADD, Ross.
You look like a fashion model, but you're a stone cold killer.
So
I'm going to call you a beast, and that's my highest praise.
I appreciate that. It is a praise to me if someone calls me a beast.
You are a friggin' beast.
Very much appreciate it.
You are an attractive beast. Let me just say.
Thank you.
I mean, I have just a couple of things I just want to quickly before we end. Looking back, you've had some life, and you're still a kid. You're young. What advice would you give your younger self now, like when you were first starting?
It would probably be the saying that I said earlier, to have more fear of regret than you have of failure. I think to sit at the end of your life with all the woulda, shoulda, couldas is a heck of a lot more torturous than having tried something and quote unquote failed. And realizing that time goes really quickly. Yeah. So to say, I'll do it tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, a lot of adults look back years and decades later and they never did it. So having more fear of regret than failure and taking action when inspired. I believe in quantum physics, under the understanding of quantum physics and the universe, whatever you want to call that high power. When you're shot with a moment of inspiration, it is not your time to say, I'll do it later. It is your time to act.
LFG.
Yes.
That's my new, when I comment now on a lot of things, it's LFG.
LFG.
That's how I feel. I see something, I get, excited. I mean, let's go.
Right, because other people are getting sparks of inspiration too.
Correct.
And it's a race to who gets there first.
Who's going to create that Butler bag? I mean, I love it. It was one of the most obvious things is so, when you see something and it's just so obvious, but nobody did it, and all of a sudden it happens, and you're like, why didn't I think of that? I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's so crazy.
I had so many of those ideas, Ross. I never want to feel like that again.
I love it. It's me too, by the way. So you're more of an idea person. I'm more of an execute person. I'm the
Hmm.
guy, I need ideas. And then, I'm a guy that's, I'll keep going till I'm like the Terminator. You got to
Yeah.
literally kill me. I don't stop.
Sure.
Now, my
I love
last question to you, and it's a big one. I want you to give it a thought. I know you've thought of this before and you've been probably asked this question, but how do you want to be remembered? Like what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
um, I want to leave the legacy of people feeling like she was someone who is kind, which you've used that word, and I really appreciate that word in a world that can be very cruel. She was kind and thoughtful and inspired me to be more than I thought I was going to be able to be.
It's great.
That's the professional answer. The personal answer is that my kids are also so kind and leave people better than they found them.
I'm going to steal all that if you don't mind.
You can?
You're my
Yes.
idea person now.
Yes, absolutely.
Jen, I want to thank you so much for giving me this privilege today.
Thank you.
I could talk to you forever, but
This was fun. I love it. The energy. I feel like I drank 10 cups of coffee.
I love it too. Thank you so much for your time today. I'm so excited for the future. I'm so excited for my new friendship with Jen Groover. This was
Likewise.
15 years in the making, but we both had a little thing, a little life to live.
Yeah.
Thank you
And
so
here we
much
are
for
now.
thank you so much for tuning in. Everybody, take care. Have an amazing day.
Thank you.